Hello and welcome to Learning Tech 101. My name is Renique, and today what we're going to be doing is going over a few of some basic Windows network commands. So we'll go over and explain a couple of them. Hopefully this gives you a better understanding of them if you had any doubts about them before and everything. So let's go ahead and first we're going to start off by bringing up the command prompt. So in our search bar, we're going to type in CMD and click on Run as Administrator. So our first command we're going to try is going to be the hostname command. So this command is going to be able to show you what your system's current configured hostname is. So if we typed in hostname, enter, it shows that for this particular system, the hostname is desktop dash 0NRM487. So this is could be a possibly faster way of being able to discover what your hostname is for the system rather than having to go through the different menus in the Windows and everything. Next, what we're going to try is going to be the ping command. Now, the ping command is going to be probably one of the more common networking commands in Windows, and actually with a lot of different systems in general. So what ping is going to do is ping is going to use ICMP to be able to send out these echo requests to see if it gets a reply. And what is that doing is, well, what that is doing is when it gets that reply, that's letting that system know that it has some basic form of IP connectivity with this other device out there on the network. So ping is used a lot when it comes to troubleshooting. First thing that gets tried when most people may say, oh, I'm having some type of networking problems or something of that sort. So we're going to start off and just simple ping, and let's just say google.com. So one of the things you would notice when you do ping is when you do it, it's pinging the IP address, but it actually has to translate here the domain name to the IP address. So that's the first thing that it did. And then it sends out 4 ICMP packets. So Windows by default sends out 4 ICMP packets. And then it's waiting to see if it gets a reply. So I got a reply from Google that's letting me know that I have some basic form of connectivity to Google. The other thing that I'm going to get out of this is it's going to let me know what is my latency for this. So it's showing for the first packet, 29 seconds, second packet, 26 seconds, third packet, 29, fourth one, 62. So that's going to be, the latency is going to kind of let me know how fast of a connection I actually have with Google. So higher number, slower the connection. So ideally, you're always looking to see if you can have some lower numbers when you're doing, when you're seeing your connectivity to something. So it's going to let you know how many packets you got that were sent out for, how many you received for. So that you know you didn't lose any. So that's a 100% success rate. So ping is, like I said, one of those tools that it's used quite a bit when it comes to troubleshooting. So especially networking problems, and then you have other systems that are using it just to make sure that they're checking to see if they're connected. So you'll have some things that it's using it in the background, sending out ICMP packets to see if it's getting a reply back, because then it lets you know I'm still connected to this device. I'm still connected to this device. You see this a lot when it comes to like gaming. Gaming systems may do it in the background so let you know you're still connected to the game server and everything. So next command we're going to use is, this is probably one of another really common command when it comes to networking, is the IPconfig command. So IPconfig command is going to show you how your TCP/IP network configuration settings. So if we do IPconfig, so by default, just doing IPconfig by itself, your big things you're getting out of this is going to show you what your current IP address is, what your subnet mask is, and what your default gateway is. So these are all how your network adapter is configured with its TCP/IP settings. Now, if we do IPconfig slash all, we get a little bit more information now. So now we're starting to see, besides just IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, we're also getting the MAC address for the network adapter. We're seeing that this is currently using DHCP. That's how it got assigned its IP address. Then, since it is using DHCP, it's letting me know some of the information. There's the DHCP server. This is when it was assigned the DHCP IP address. This is when it will expire. Then it's also letting you know your DNS settings. So my DNS server right here. So IPconfig is going to give you a lot of information on how your TCP/IP configuration is. Um, so it's going to show it for your current network adapter, whatever that may be, whether you're on the Wi-Fi or it's a Ethernet connection. Now, there's some other things that you can actually do with IPconfig besides just displaying information. So you can actually see if you can use IPconfig to release and renew your IP address since you got it using DHCP. So if you use the IPconfig slash release, this will release the IP address that it got from the DHCP server. And then if I wanted to make sure I'm able to get a new one, IPconfig slash renew. And then it goes in there and it's going to renew and try and grab a new IP address. Now, it may give you the same one that it was originally assigned, or it may assign you a different one. But it's going in there and trying to acquire a new DHCP IP address. Now, another one you can do is for your DNS. So if you're troubleshooting DNS, find out you're having some issues with DNS and you want to just flush your DNS settings and kind of see if that helps fix any issues, you can use the IP config slash flush DNS. And it lets you know it successfully flushed the DNS cache. So this will be able to help kind of with troubleshooting DNS problems, like if you're trying to get to a web page, you know it's not showing right for whatever reason, and everything else seems fine, and maybe flushing the DNS, see if that clears anything up for you. So IPconfig is going to be a really big command when it comes to knowing how things are currently configured on your system. So it's definitely one of the more used commands when it comes to networking. Now, our next command we're going to use is the ARP command, Address Resolution Protocol. So what this command does is it shows you the mapping of IP address to MAC address. So if we'll just do the ARP command. So it's going to show you a table of different IP addresses and then the MAC addresses that are associated with them. So these IP addresses and the MAC addresses that are going on with them are going to belong to other systems that are on your network. So it's only showing you ones though that there has been some form of an interaction between your system and that system. So if there has, then it populates in your ARP table. So your ARP table is kind of help be able to speed up connections rather than having to know what is the IP address that goes with this MAC address. You already know it. And then you may actually know, okay, well, what is the next step to be able to start moving it towards that MAC address? So your ARP command is going to be able to display that. Now, with this command is you can use it to actually manually add to this table as well. So if you wanted to manually add a listing in there and then also be able to modify and delete that listing, then you can also use it to flush it completely. So if something's gone wrong with it, maybe too many changes, someone messed with it, whatever, then you can use your ARP command to actually completely flush it out altogether. So our next command that we're going to look at is going to be the NSLOOKUP command. So your NS lookup is going to show you the domain name to IP address mapping. So what it's doing is it's going to query DNS servers to find out what the IP address for a domain name. So if we do NS lookup on CNN.com. So what it's doing is it sends out a query to the DNS server. So whatever my assigned DNS server is, which is it's this one right here. So it sends out a query to it, and then it's asking what is the IP addresses that belong with this domain, and this is what it returns. So we have four IPv4 addresses, and then we have several IPv6 address that belong to CNN.com. So you can use NSLOOKUP to determine if you're having DNS problems as well. So if you're trying to get to something and find out you're being redirected somewhere else or it's not coming up, but everything else seems to be working, then you can use this to determine, well, see if I have a DNS issue. So by specifying if everything comes up and looks fine or you're not seeing anything, when you do it, like let's say I did the NS lookup and I didn't get anything, then I could tell it to do it using a different DNS server. So I could say NS lookup to CNN.com using Google's DNS server. And now it's going to query Google's DNS servers looking for that information, and I'm able to get it. So if the first time I did it and I wasn't able to get anything, but then the second time I did it using a different DNS server, and now I'm able to get something, and that's going to give me an idea that maybe there's an issue with my assigned DNS server. So the NSLOOKUP command is going to be able to show you that mapping between domain name and IP address. And then you're going to see in bigger organizations that have internal DNS servers, you can also see a mapping between system name and IP address. So now you can use the NSLOOKUP command to look up the name of a system to be able to find out what its IP address is. So our next command that we're going to try is the netstat command. So netstat is going to show you all your active connections. So it's going to scan your system to look and see which ports currently have active connections. And then it's going to give you the information about those connections. So right here, I have 2 active connections on this system. So it's letting me know my IP address and the port on my end that is active, and then the IP address and port of who it's connected to. So you're gonna definitely see a lot of HTTP and HTTPS when you do this, and see the different connections, because those are gonna be kind of common. Now, if you see ones that are a little bit abnormal, so if I see the on the other end, the port number is similar to something like this, a high number, then that may make me scratch my head a little and kind of wonder, okay, well, what is that? What am I actually connecting to and everything? But NetStat's gonna be able to show you what active connections your system currently has. Another command to kind of know about and be aware of is uh, tracert. So tracert, what it's going to do is it's going to show you the path that your data is taking to get to a particular destination. So when you do the command, you have to specify what are you doing it to. And then whatever you are doing the command to, it's going to show you all the different routers that it's passing through to be able to make it to that destination. So let's say we want to do trace RT to google.com. So what it's doing is now it's sending out an ICMP packet, and then it's following along as it's making its way to google.com. So the first one that shows up would be my router that, or the gateway for this device that it's showing up for. And then you would possibly be able to see others. Now, the thing about this particular command is not every system or every router, because that's the thing that it's showing is the different routers or hops that is passing through are configured to respond to these. So we showed, or I could show that I can get to Google by typing in ping to google.com and see if I get a reply. So that lets me know, yes, I have connectivity to Google. I can reach Google. But as you see, when I'm getting these asterisks and it's saying request timeout, that doesn't mean that I can't get there. It just means possibly that the routers that it's trying to pass through are not responding to this ICMP. So I'm not getting any information back on IP address, time, and stuff like that that could possibly show when it's doing this. So usually this is a command you kind of follow up with some other things. Like if you did the ping command and didn't get a response, then maybe you want to see where it stops at. So you may follow that up with the tracert command and see what is the last hop that actually shows up. So then that last hop may be where you want to start to troubleshoot. Now, it's only going to show you a max of 30 hops. If it takes more than 30 hops to get somewhere, it's not going to show you any of those additional hops after that. So it's only going to show you just a max of 30. So we'll go ahead and stop this. All right, and then the last command we're going to talk about is the route command. So the route command is going to be used to show you your route table. So your route table just lists different networks your system has learned about. and then it's going to be able to let you know how it knows how to get to that network. And what I mean by that is just who is the next person it has to forward it to be able to start working data to that network. So nowadays, you're always going to see two of them: your IPv4 route table, and then your IPv6 route table. Because now you may have a lot of networks where they're having both IP addresses signed. So then eventually, when that time comes and they want to move from the IPv4 to the IPv6 is already in place. So when we look at this with our table, it's just showing you the different networks. Now for this one, it doesn't know of any other networks besides just the one that it's currently in. So you're not seeing it know or have learned about a bunch of other networks, just its own internal one. Now, one of the things you'll also notice in this table is you'll see your listing for your default gateway. So this is going to be where if you don't know how to get to a network, who are you sending it to? And that's what it's going to list right here is your default gateway. So for me, it'd be my router. For in a business network, it can vary which router they're actually sending to and things like that. But you can actually see what that is in your route table. Also, you can use this to modify. So if you wanted to manually add a listing in there, you can. As well, if you wanted to manually update your default gateway through your command line, you could use the route command to be able to do that. So it's just displaying different networks that it's learned about over time and everything. Hopefully you found this helpful, and if so, please check out some of our other videos, see if those help out with any of your networking or IT questions that you may have. Thank you.